Hello everybody, it's Hater. Welcome back to another Destiny 2 build video, and today we're going to continue the first impressions of Void 3.0. In the last video, we talked about the Void Walker subclass and my first impressions on it with a build that I put together. Today though, we are going to be moving on over to the Titan and talk about the Sentinel subclass. So if you guys enjoy the video, leave a like on it, leave a comment down in the comment section what you guys think about Void 3.0. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow me over at my Twitch for more Destiny content, and there will be a dim loadout link down in the description. To kick things off, guys, we're gonna start just like we did on the Void Walker and talk about the subclass itself. And the first thing to note, just like the Stasis subclasses, we have aspects and fragments. But the new thing that Bungie added with Void 3.0 is that they overhauled and updated all of the old supers. So now when choosing a super on the Sentinel subclass, you have the option of changing two on the fly. The first one being the Ward of Dawn that everyone knows and loves. But instead of it being tied to the Sentinel shield and holding down the button, the bubble is now laid instantaneously at the cost of having its damage buff being reduced from 35% to 25%. Then the other super that you have the option of using is the Sentinel shield itself, but it comes with a kicker because Bungie has merged both Middle Tree Sentinel and Bottom Tree Sentinel from the original Void subclass into one super. It reads that using your super ability will summon a shield of Void Light. While Sentinel is active, you can attack, block, and perform the shield throw with it. But it reads when you perform the guard with the Sentinel shield, it creates a defensive wall. Allies who shoot through the defensive wall have increased weapon damage, and guarding allies makes the shield last longer. If you're familiar with the old Void subclass, this is exactly the same thing as Banner Shield. For the build that we'll be using in today's video, the one that I've been running the most has been the Ward of Dawn, since it has a great synergy with one of the aspects. But before we get into the aspects, something else that is new to the Sentinel subclass is its new melee ability, Shield Throw. Instead of having melee abilities like Defensive Strike or the Shield Bash, Bungie created a brand new melee attack that will allow you to throw a mini shield that will then provide overshield based on how many enemies it hits. Along with that, something else that is new that Bungie added to all of the Void subclasses, which is more of a quality of life, is that every single grenade that is tied to the Void subclass is available for all three characters. So grenades that aren't usually on the Titan, like the Scatter Grenade, the Vortex Grenade, the Spike Grenade, and Axion Bolt, are now available on top of the old ones that it already had. Now that we've gone over all of the new abilities that are tied to the Sentinel subclass, let's talk about the aspects and fragments that we'll be using in this build. And starting off with the aspects, the Titan has three brand new ones that they're able to use. Starting off with the first one, Offensive Bulwark. While you have an overshield or are inside Ward of Dawn, your grenade charges significantly faster, you have increased melee range and damage, and your melee final blows extend the duration of your overshield. You also gain an additional shield throw while in Sentinel Shield. This is going to have a really nice synergy with this build, since it's going to allow us to have our grenade up almost all of the time. And if you've already noticed on the bottom left where it shows my stats, I literally only have 2 discipline on my Titan. But I promise you though, it literally makes no difference. Your grenade uptime is outlandishly fast when you have an overshield or are inside of your bubble. For the next aspect that we'll be using in this build, it's going to be Controlled Demolition, which was previously on Middle Tree Sentinel. Hitting a target with a Void ability or Volatile Explosion makes them volatile. Further damage to a volatile target causes them to explode. It then grants you and nearby allies health when volatile targets explode near you. This is going to be our bread and butter for the entire build, because when combined with a fragment that we'll be talking about in a moment, everything is going to be exploding more than twice every time we hit them. For the third and final aspect that we have available for us to use, it's gonna be Bastion. Cast your super to grant overshield to nearby allies. Casting your Barricade grants overshield to yourself and nearby allies and empowers it, enabling it to slowly regenerate the overshield of allies bunkering behind it and extend their overshield duration. This has good synergy overall with the Titan subclass, but with the goal that I have in mind for this build, I'm going to be leaving it out for the time being. Later down the road, of course, I will try to incorporate into a new build, but for now, I feel that controlled demolition and offensive bulwark is the way to go. Moving on over to the fragments of the build, there are 14 completely different fragments that Bungie has given us to use. But to keep the video nice and quick, I'm just gonna blitz right through them so you guys understand what each one does. Starting off with Echo of Expulsion, Void ability Final Blows cause targets to explode. Echo of Provision, damaging targets with grenades grants melee energy. Echo of Exchange, melee Final Blows grant grenade energy. Echo of Remnants, your lingering grenade effects, Vortex Grenade, Void Wall, Void Spike, and Axion Bolt have increased duration. Echo of Reprisal, Final Blows when surrounded by combatants grant super energy. Echo of Undermining, your Void Grenades weaken targets. Echo of Persistence, Void buffs applied to you Invisibility, Overshield, and Devour have increased duration. Echo of Leeching, melee Final Blows start health regeneration for you and nearby allies. Echo of Domineering, after suppressing a target, you gain greatly increased mobility for a short duration, and your equipped weapon is reloaded from reserves. Echo of Dilation, while crouched you sneak faster and gain enhanced radar resolution. Echo of Instability, defeating targets with grenades grant volatile rounds to your void weapons. Echo of Harvest, defeating weakened targets with precision Final Blows will create an orb of power. Echo of Obscurity, finisher Final Blows grant invisibility. And Echo of Starvation, picking up an orb of power grants Devour. All of these are phenomenal options that you can move around in your build, but for the fragments that I use in my build, I use Echo of Expulsion so that enemies will explode from all of my abilities. This is going to synergize really well with offensive bulwark and controlled demolition, allowing me to get more than double the amount of explosions from one ability kill. Then I pair it with Echo of Leeching so that melee Final Blows will start health regeneration for me and my nearby allies. This is really good so that shield throw will mark enemies for controlled demolition and heal me and everyone near me. Then I use Echo of Undermining so that my grenades will weaken targets, so that if I'm using Suppressor Grenade, it will not only suppress the target, but it will weaken them so that they take 15% more damage. Then to finish it off, I use Echo of Persistence so that void buffs applied to me, specifically the Overshield, will last longer overall. In the end though guys, feel free to change your fragments around to whatever you guys like. This is just my first impressions of what a Sentinel build could look like. Moving on over to the mods that make the build, we're going to need a few things. We're going to need at least one armor piece Void, one armor piece Stasis, and 2 of them Solar to make this work. Starting off on my helmet, I have it as Solar, and I'm using Explosive Wellmaker at the end, so explosive damage kills, mostly our controlled demolition, will create a Solar Elemental Well. Next to it, I have a Rocket Launcher Ammo Finder because my heavy weapon is a rocket launcher. Over at the arms, I have these also as Solar, and I'm using Well of Life at the end, so whenever I pick up the Solar Elemental Well from Explosive Wellmaker, it gives me 10 seconds of constant healing. Then I'm using 2 Impact Induction so that whenever I hit enemies with the throwing shield, it will reduce my grenade cooldown. Over at my chest piece, and for the exotic, I'm using Heart of Inmost Light. This is going to be the bread and butter of getting all of our abilities back consistently, and it has an amazing synergy with the build overall. Its exotic perk, Overflowing Light, states using an ability, Grenade, Melee, or Barricade, empowers the other 2 abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen, melees and grenades deal more damage, and the Barricade has more hit points. On it, I have Elemental Time Dilation, which will allow us to stack multiple time-based elemental well mods on top of themselves to increase the duration on their time-based benefits based on how many are equipped. For example, in this build, we're using Well of Tenacity and Well of Life. Well of Life gives 10 seconds, but with Elemental Time Dilation, it bumps it up to 13 seconds, and Well of Tenacity goes from 5 seconds to 9 seconds. Next to it, I'm using a Concussive Dampener and the new Thermoshock Plating, which will reduce incoming solar and arc damage at the same time for one mod. Moving on over to the boots, I have these as Void, and I'm using Well of Tenacity at the end, so picking up a Void Elemental Well will give me 50% damage resistance for 9 seconds. Next to it, I'm using 2 rocket launcher ammo scabs from the artifact. Also, even though it states that additional versions of this mod do not stack on top of themselves, specifically because they are the artifact versions, they are bugged and allow us to stack on top of themselves. So whenever I pick up a heavy brick for rockets, I get 3 rockets back instead of 1. Then finally, moving on over to the class item, I have it as solar, and I'm using elemental ordnance at the end, so defeating enemies with my grenade will spawn a void elemental well. And then I have 2 bombers next to it so that whenever I use my barricade, it will synergize with the build and give me much more grenade energy back. Overall guys, that is going to be the build for today's video. This is just my first impressions of the Sentinel Titan, and of course much further down the road in about a week or 2, I'll have a much more finer build made for it. But I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm going to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.